Yes. So today we're talking about what spiritual practices fuel your spiritual growth. I'm going to say which practices and not assign it a qualitation or a qualitative noun, because some of these practices you may not consider spiritual, and yet they do fuel your spiritual growth. They do. Something as simple, basic, and quote unquote mundane, such as eating or bathing or the way you go to sleep, your spiritual hygiene before you go to bed and your spiritual hygiene once you get up. All of these things that you just do on a regular basis are all parts of your spiritual practices. And why do I say that? Why would I say that? If you are operating, remember that one of our tenets is to always audit your assumptions, check yourself before you wreck yourself. And so if you are operating under the assumption that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, then every human experience is a spiritual tool for your development, isn't it? Yes. That's the whole function, that's the whole assumption underneath your treasures, the treasures that lie in your triggers. Because if you were just Humpty Dumpty sitting on a wall, moving along, having your best life, triggers would be an inconvenience, wouldn't they? Right. But because you are a spiritual master unfolding and practicing and elevating your spiritual mastery, then even triggers are ingredients for what some traditions would call salvation, in others will call them your ascension. Yeah. So I said something yesterday. My personal trial, we were working out. I work out with her on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And you know how sometimes you say some stuff and you're like, oh, who said that? Oh, write that down. That's a tweetable. So I had that moment yesterday when I was working out with my trainer, because I said to her, um, she was showing me a particular move, and I heard something else, honey. I went somewhere else with it. It was completely not what she instructed, and it wasn't even what she was visually demonstrated. I went somewhere else, okay? And she stopped me, and then she showed it to me again, and then I started again from one. She was like, "Oh, what number are you on?" I was like, "I'm starting over." And she was like, "Oh," because I was already like halfway through. It was like 6 out of 15 or whatever, right? Um, and so, and I said, if we could see repetition as a gesture of devotion and not just as an outcome of failure. Like, remember when we were little, if you had to quote unquote repeat a grade, then it was because you failed it the first time, right? If you had to go back and fix something on a paper, you had to repeat what you said to your children or to a spouse or to a loved one or whatever, it's because they didn't hear you the first time, or because they didn't get it the first time, or they didn't comply the first time. But if instead of seeing repetition as an outcome of failure, I can see it as a gesture of devotion, such as I'm starting this set again because I want to get it as effective as possible. And I'm going to do my 15 reps all over again. Then we would be so much further along the road to mastery than if we were to be like, crap, as though the act of living itself feels like an interminable errand that you just want to get over with. Have you noticed that there's some people that live like that? They're just like, oh, God, I gotta sleep, I gotta bathe, I gotta eat, I gotta work, I gotta talk to these people, I gotta put oil in the car. Like, Jesus, when is this living over? You know? Um, so here on the Daily Huddle, we're gonna invite you to see it a bit differently. That's all. Just check your assumption. So here on the Daily Huddle, we're gonna invite you to see it as though even the most mundane, human, boring, banal of your daily practices are part of your spiritual unfoldment. And it is in the wax on, wax off, hats off to Mr. Miyagi, that you actually get your mastery, that you actually elevate your consciousness. It is in the mundane that you elevate your consciousness. It's not in the lofty. By the time that you get to the lofty, if you haven't done the work at the lower level, you'll miss the nuance of the higher level. And you won't be able to sustain it because it'll just be a conceptual exercise instead of an actual journey that you've enjoyed the whole time. Yeah. Have you noticed sometimes when somebody goes, when they win a championship or when they win a very coveted award, et cetera, when they get up there, sometimes they don't even have words, right? It's not like this PR stunt for them. It's a culmination of all the silent sacrifices, of all of the sleepless nights, of all of the unspoken inconveniences and indignities that they may have had to live through. And by the time that they get to that stage, it's like, no words would suffice, right? Or they have eye contact with someone that supported them along their journey. And the eye contact is enough. They're like, I don't even have words for this person except to say thank you and to honor that person, right? So, spiritual practices that fuel your growth. Let's start with the basics. You guys know about your lower bodies. You know about the root chakra and its representation and correspondence with the earth. You know about the sacral chakra and its correspondence to the water element. You know about the solar plexus and its correspondence to the air element. And you know about the heart chakra and its correspondence to the fire element. So you can start there with real basic correspondences. At the earth level, this represents your food, right? Your food grounds you. I don't know if you've ever had any kind of long period of fasting, et cetera, but, and you know that I have if you've been here any amount of time. And when you're fasting, you kind of, you live up in the clouds. So you kind of need food to ground you in that way. Food represents the earth element. And so start there. Does this food, look at your plate. Next time you have a meal, look at your plate. Does this food represent the best of me? Does this food fuel the best of me? Because if it's fueling my addictions, if it's fueling my predilections, if it's fueling some emotional wound that I have not talked about yet, and I'm just covering up or numbing it with food, there's your answer, right? So at the earth level, at the root level, food level, etc. Notice also that from lower body to higher body, the lowest one is the one that we can go the longest without. You can go years without food. Okay. Next one is the water element, the sacral chakra. And so with the water, it's not just the water that you imbibe or the liquids that you imbibe, juices, drinks, sodas, alcohol, etc., but also the water you surround yourself with, the water in your bath, the water in your cooking, the water in your wash, etc., etc. So the water element around you, does that feel like it is quenching your spiritual thirst? Do you put minerals in your water when you drink it? Do you have electrolytes in your water when you drink it? Because a lot of times people will say, oh yeah, you're supposed to drink a gallon of water a day. Well, if it's stripped of minerals and electrolytes, all you're doing is just drowning yourself slowly. But that's another sermon for another sermon. That's the second thing, the water element. The third element is the solar plexus, and that's the air element. The air element is about your thoughts, your mental body. Just like the water element is about your emotional body, and the earth element is about your physical body. So I'll also add to the physical body your exercise, your movement, your dance. The water element, your emotions and how you process it. And now to the air element, your thoughts. What air are you breathing? And I don't just mean oxygen. I mean, is there tension in your house? Are there unspoken communications in your place of work, in your place of business? Are you just kind of tiptoeing around each other? That occupies your mental space. Right? And so, check yourself on that. And finally, with the fire element, with the heart chakra, your spiritual practices, your prayers, your meditations, your concentrations, your awakeness to everything that you do. Have you noticed, maybe this has happened to you, have you seen a person walking who is an athlete, who is a dancer, for example, they have possession and dominion and an elegance about how they move their body in very different way than somebody who's just kind of walking down the street. It's very conscious, it's very deliberate. It's like they're inhabiting their body, not just kind of moving around the world. And so I invite you to be that conscious. Be that conscious of your gestures, just like what I'm doing right now with my hands. Be that conscious of the space you occupy physically in your body, with your gaze, with your eyes, with your eye contact, with your words and the pacing. If you can just imagine, slow yourself down enough to observe yourself as though you were a character in a movie. The words you're saying, the eye contact that you're holding, the pace of the tone of your speech, the posture of your body, like how you're holding your spine. Are you hunched over? Are you looking straight up at someone? Are your legs separated? Are they crossed? Are they united at the ankles or at the knees? Do your hips hurt? You know what I mean? Like that level of consciousness and awareness about the space you're occupying physically. I know that it sounds on first blush like that's not a spiritual thing, but your physicality is the first ingredient to your spiritual consciousness. That may sound contradictory to some people, but if you look at any sacred text, you will notice how much they talk about your physical body and the physical space you take and the physicality of your existence, not just your body, but your words, the things that go in and out of your eye, that come in and out of your mouth, that come in and out of your ears, all of that physical sensory stuff. It's part of your spiritual experience, it's part of your spiritual practices. So use the lower level, use the lower elements, use your lower bodies to elevate your consciousness, not just as an outcome of your failure or as a burden that you just had to get over. Make sense what I'm saying? So what is something that you do or practice every day that you, until this conversation, maybe have not considered as a spiritual practice, but perhaps now you'll start to add that little sauce on it? What's something that you do every day that you're like, you know what, if I take this on as a spiritual practice, I'm gonna have to start looking at it differently. I'm gonna have to start being more respectful of myself or of other people or of this circumstance or whatever the case. What is that for you? For some of you, it might be eating. For some of you, it might be even showering or taking a bath. For some of you, it might be cleaning up, decluttering your office or your car or your living environment. For some of you, it might be your speech, the way you talk, the deliberateness with which you use profanity. I want you to know that I'm very responsible for my profanity. It is very deliberate. Robin can attest to that. Profanity is like Goya, it's like just seasoning, some stuff don't need it that much.
Look, the F-bomb can be appropriate when it's placed properly,
That's
right?
exactly
It's
right.
used randomly,
It's
it
even
loses its
elegant.
power.
That's exactly right. Yes. All right. So what are you taking on? What are you taking on
You
from
know,
your,
you
yes,
know, Dr. Ogando, this was originally I hosted this day. So a lot of what you're talking about, you're just resonating with me. You're not opening new ground. And
sure.
I've always felt this. I had a gentleman at a men's group one time, and he said, I was sitting at a Sonic about to eat a foot-long cherry cheese or chili cheese dog covered with onions, and I went to say thanks, prayer of thanks for the food. And all I could feel in my spirit was, why are you thanking me for putting garbage in your body? Right. So this was not a spiritual thing.
Right.
And it made me really think about it. So I am very specific. I understand the spirituality of that. Yesterday, I didn't have anything to eat all day. I drank coffee and water all day, and I was exhausted. I was wiped out, and I felt the drain spiritually as
Mm-hmm.
well as physically. So the things you're saying, I just hope more people get to understand that, because we are a spiritual being in a physical body. Everything we do has spiritual implications.
That's
So
exactly right.
thanks for the
Yeah,
topic, dear. This is great.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Who else has something? Mm.
She'll wait you out,
Grand
guys.
Rising, Grand Rising.
Yeah.
Dr. Ogando, my dear sister queen, thank you so much for the topic. I'm look forward for every Thursday morning to come at Daily
Oh.
Huddle. And when you was late, I was like, oh, she just getting 2 minutes more nap. But I am so in tune with this topic this morning. And m- being mindful
Yeah.
have my surrounding, being
Yeah.
mindful of every single thing that I do, because is the reflection. It's like I have a girlfriend that she always, oh, your kids are the reflection of you, and I say sometimes they do some stupid stuff, not silly stuff, stupid stuff. I say, damn, that's my reflection. And I was like, wait a minute,
I
trust me.
refuse.
I was like, did I do this? And it's been a mindful thing that I go back into my childhood and remember if I have done this to my mom, if I have done this to my ancestors, to my grandparents. I was like, no, I couldn't do something like that because they will be knocking my head off my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And in the morning when I wake up and I get say thank you to the universe and to the ancestor that I'm up again, and I put on my jogging suit or my walking gear, and I go for a walk and come back and start to ground myself, because I walk between 10 to 15 minutes every morning and bare feet in my backyard. And it make me just resonate with myself, with my being, with my spirituality, with just grounding, just feeling
Mm-hmm.
that I belong where I walk in. And that soil is like, oh my goodness, it gives me that energy for the rest of the day. And also fasting is something that I practice I practice it like, okay, in the morning, I don't have breakfast. I don't have breakfast until around noon. I started to really resonate in, okay, what I'm going to put into my body, what healthy stuff I'm going to feed my body with. But trust me, the topic is just broad. It really resonate with me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you touching this little, we think is delicate. It's lifestyle. It's
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. That's great. Cece says she spends time daily memorizing the word. I think you mean the Bible, the Christian Bible. Stop looking at distractions, living in faith, fasting and praying regularly. Yes, filling up with the Bible daily. Absolutely. Um, we have to take care of our temple. Yes, Laura. Who is this? Roland. I think, Ronald, excuse me.
Hey, hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, I just realized how interesting that Diliano gets connected, from topic to topic. And the reason I'm saying that is yesterday, Chase had this lady here,
Mhm.
try to remember her name, um,
Mama Ayo.
Mama Ayos, that's right?
That's correct. That's Mama
Right.
Ayo.
And she was talking about breathology, you know,
Okay.
breathing. And I'm, I just kind of really connecting, what you were saying regarding air, unspoken issues or spoken conversation,
Hmm.
and being part of that, and also taking the time to breathe,
Right.
as that is so really important, because
Yes.
it's actually uh, a source, definitely a source of life that we tend to neglect to really be conscious of the the rhythm of your breathing. So that's something I took on yesterday, actually.
That's fantastic.
I haven't been doing that. But just when she brought it up, and
Mhm.
Chase it was really kind of a very special moment yesterday on this conversation. So I was like, okay, it's amazing that you bring it now with air, and then I think you talk about earth. If you can wrap it up again, earth, air, and there was another uh, um, topic you mentioned earlier. Did I miss? I mean, you talk about earth connecting with
Yes,
the
the earth,
physical.
water, air, and the fire elements. Uh-huh.
Yeah, right, right. So that's all I wanted to bring is
Yeah.
just the connection of
Yeah.
uh,
Good stuff.
of the daily huddle about certain topics.
I know. It's like a higher intelligence is at play here because we don't like communicate with one another about our topics. They just
Yeah.
organically build into one another like that. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. All right, all right. So here's some you guys have brought up some stuff that you already do. Here's some things to take it to the next level for you. Practice number one, slow down. Practice number one, slow down. Like just slow everything down. Imagine that somebody put the instead of you going at 2x, go at 0.5x or 0.75x, right? In your life. Like just the way you move, the way you pick up this pen, the way you're about to click leave when you leave the Zoom, the way you get up from your chair, the way you go to the kitchen and get a glass of water. Just slow down for a second. And it'll give you enough pause to observe yourself, to notice your surroundings, to get some situational awareness, to observe yourself. Right? So you're not just participating in your life, you're also observing how you are participating in your life. That would be just a simple spiritual practice would be that, number one. Number two, make some conscious decisions, make some conscious choices. You don't have to stop what you're doing. You don't have to change and revolutionize everything that you're doing. Just make that choice consciously. If you were already going to have a cholesterol boat for lunch, go ahead and have your cholesterol boat for lunch and just tell yourself, narrate your life to yourself. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm choosing. You might even admit it to yourself, like, I'm doing this so that I can numb my heartache. And that's why I'm clogging my arteries. And whatever it is, right? When you're doing it with a level of self-disclosure, right? You don't have to confess it to anybody else. You just get to self-disclose to yourself. It elevates the consciousness of what you're doing. And you probably will end up making a different decision later, but all I'm saying to you right now is you don't have to change your behavior. Just observe and narrate your behavior to yourself. That in itself is enough. Number three. Number three. I'm going to give you the assignment that my theater teacher gave me in high school. I was at a boarding school in high school, Phillips Academy, Andover, and we had to take an elective, and that was theater for me. And the theater teacher for me was an actual active playwright in the Boston area. So he was like coming from his work to come teach a class to these teenage rugrats. And the assignment that he gave us, I give now to you, which is just as he told us to pick one scene of one act of one play and break it down line by line. Does this line move either the plot or the character development along? And if it doesn't do any of that, what would you put in its stead? Get that? It either moves the plot of the body of work or it moves the character development along. So I want you to take one scene of one act of one life. That act could be this season, that scene could be this day. And just go, assignment by assignment, appointment by appointment, conversation by conversation, person by person that you are interacting with. How does this interaction, how does this appointment, how does what I'm saying and what I'm hearing move either the plot of my life along or my character development? And if it does neither, what would I do in its stead? That is the teacher, unbeknownst to him, I don't even remember his name. I just remember that assignment and how pivotal it was in changing the way that I looked at life. Because if everything you say and do and everything that is said and done in your presence is designed either to move the plot of your life along or your character development, you would be far more judicious, darling, about the things that you say and do and the things that are said and done in front of you. That level of deliberateness, that level of grace and elegance and purpose in some of the most insignificant moments could literally change your life the way that he just tossed that assignment out there. And I'm talking about him to this day, 40 years later, whatever it is, 30 years later. You know what I mean?
So, can I say something?
Of course.
Yeah. It's kind of really, and I'm still looking for connection. Sorel's been talking a lot about emotional intelligence lately. And it kind of really bring what you're saying to that also. So that's the self-awareness aspect and the self-regulated aspect of you going about your day, but being aware, just like you was talking about the dancer walking in a, very confident or athletically sound.
Yeah.
So it's a self-awareness and a regulated aspect of emotional intelligence that you're really bringing there. And ever since Sorel's been talking about it, I've been kind of dabbing into it to really catch myself, in the thing. So I'm glad you're bringing it all up and kind of really, making present of it. So thanks for that. Just wanted to add it up. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Dr. Ogando.
Yes, ma'am.
It's me again. Listen, you is putting so much stuff in perspective, because we take so much stuff, daily stuff, for granted. Just to and I go into a minimum just to blink your eyes. When you see a fly coming to your eyes, you're definitely going to blink and start to wave it half your face. The consciousness that you are instilling, are opening this morning, it just, like what you just said, just drinking a glass of water, we take it for granted. We take it for granted. And mind you, and I'm saying this because I remember when I finished my fast in April and I got sick and I could not move myself on my bed. It gave me enough time and enough consciousness to say, oh my God. And when I say that, it because if my son didn't move, come and help me to get out the bed to go to the bathroom and get me from the bathroom to the bed, this is thing that I saying we take stuff for granted. Just the movement of one of our 10 fingers.
Right. Yeah.
If like my niece got cut, she's a chef, and she got cut. She said, I did not know I missed my other finger until I got cut. And I'm telling you, and she's still going through therapy and it's hurting her. She says, mind you, I never considered that finger until I no longer have use of it. So we need to start to build conscious awareness and start to know that we're not supposed to take nothing for granted.
Yeah.
And nobody also for granted. Because remember, if you don't want somebody hit you or abuse you, you don't want to abuse the other person. So the conscious awareness is what we need to build on. And thank you so much for really opening that horizon. Like, okay, wait a minute, is I taking my vitamin? Consciousness. Did I taking my drinking with a lot of water? Or you want to drink with juice? You know, it's so much stuff that you really
Yeah.
opened this morning.
Yeah.
Just thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
so much for the topic.
Yeah, being present. Yes, Florence says you would become much more present to how we are being. Being intentional is coming up for Laura. Florence also says Buddhists say we must never drink a glass of water mindlessly. Yeah, thinking consciously. Absolutely. Listen, you've heard in social media streets these young people talking about being in main character energy, right? If you are the main character of this amazing masterpiece called your life that you have called forth, A Course in Miracles says, if you knew who walks beside you on this road that you have chosen, you would never be afraid. So in this road that you have chosen called, you know, Ronald's life, Stan's life, Cece's life, Laura's life, Florence's life, this masterpiece, this theatrical play called your life, and you are its protagonist, what would be the point of this play? What would be the lesson that you want the audience to walk away from? What would you want them to talk about long after they've watched your biopic movie? What would they be walking away with? How would they become better people because they watched a snippet of your life, or they engaged with you in a snippet of your life, right? So with that level of deliberate creation, you do move around the world differently, right? The things that you say have far more weight. The things that you let yourself witness also have far more weight. And you become a responsible co-creator of reality in your own eyes. Not like you become it like you were before. You always have been a co-creator, but now you own it. Now you're moving in that. Now you are stepping into that authority. Laura says, all the world is stage and we are mere players. Yeah. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us today. We are in full force in our summer series. And so, you know, stay tuned because there's more coming. We have like 9 more things to go through before the summer's over. So remember, always love, laugh, and stress less. Eat more plant-based. Sleep at least 7 hours. If you're a woman, 8 to 9 hours. Give of yourself, your time, your energy, your attention. Move your body. Remember that twerking is a spiritual exercise. It raises your kundalini. And of course, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Always audit your assumptions. When you audit your assumptions, you create instead of react. Love you. See you next time.
Yes. Love you.
One love, guys. One love.
Monikah
Ogando, thank you.